There was an old guy at the open mic night who'd been on stage, and he was kind enough to lend a very, very inebriated 17-year-old me his guitar. Hello everyone, welcome to episode number 14 of Kirk Questions. Thank you so much for tuning in to the show where I answer the questions that you ask. Here I go, wish me luck.
The first question
Alright.
comes from @the.red.feathers
Right.
on Instagram.
A lot of dots.
You've got to say it correctly.
A lot of dots.
It's the most important job.
Absolutely.
And they ask, did you have singing lessons or were you self-taught?
Yes, I did get singing lessons, but it was only very early on. I got about maybe 2 or 3 years. I think I started getting singing lessons when I was 17, I reckon, maybe late 16. And I only got them until I was 18 or 19 because my wonderful, wonderful mum decided that she would pay for them whilst I was still in school, which was till I was 18 years old. But once I was out of school, she would no longer pay for them. So I think there was maybe 2-3 years max where I got singing lessons, and they were great for the reason that before I started doing singing lessons, I was under the impression that in order to get to breathe while you're singing, you breathe through your nose. That's one of the first things I learned, was that that's not necessarily right, because your nose won't actually take in as much air as your mouth will, and with your mouth you can actually breathe down to your diaphragm, something along those lines. I don't know the technical terms. Your gut, like pretty much you can breathe into your belly. Which is where you store the most air, and singing is all about breathing. Like it's all breathing. So if you're out there singing and you're singing, if you're breathing through your nose, that could be why you possibly sound like Bob Dylan and a little bit nasally. And it could also be why you're falling short of breath. And when you fall short of breath whilst you're breathing, you put extreme pressure on your nodules, which is why you see some rock singers with veins like freaking popping out their neck when they're singing. It's because they don't have enough air and they're pushing too hard. And so with singing, you want to be making sure that you are breathing through your mouth whenever you get a chance, and really focusing on that. And the more air you've got in your lungs, the better you're going to be able to project notes. There you go. Hope that helped. Right.
Question number 2 comes from @AdamWarrenMusic on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And Adam asks, in today's music environment, is a record deal still beneficial?
Good question, Adam. Not the greatest question for me as someone that has never had a record deal. So I can't completely tell you the answer to that as someone that's been there. I can only imagine that yes, there are benefits. There's also, like anything, like there's benefits, and there would also be some negatives to it. The biggest negative that I can think of first off is that you're in record deals, you're often not always, handing over your music. Like you're literally giving ownership of that song to the record label for X amount of time, say it be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever. That's not always the case. I have definitely heard of artists who have signed deals where they still own the music or the song. But also the benefit, the big benefit of having a record label is that you get advances. So you've got that money to record the record up front, which is, personally as an independent artist, what I always find the biggest struggle is juggling the finances in the lead up to a release. I've literally just been through it with the release of the new EP, where you've got all these outgoing expenses just coming in at the one time. You've got, you're paying your mastering, your mixing, your the producer, advertising, publicity, all this stuff coming in all at once before you've even started selling any of these records or touring the record. I guess there's other ways to do it. You could do it differently so that's not the case maybe, and maybe go and do a tour prior to the I don't know, maybe there's ways around that. I'm still yet to figure them out for myself. I think just as someone who hasn't actually had a record deal, I'm probably not the best person to answer that for you, I must be honest, but I hope that in that answer gives you some kind of perspective as to whether record deals are still of advantage to the artist. I think there's positives and negatives with everything. All
right, third question comes from Gary Dwyer on Facebook.
Gaza.
And they ask, who is your favourite girl band?
Oh, great question, Gary. Oh man, so many. First one that comes to mind, like of modern day, is Larkin Poe. I didn't. Everyone was raving about them last year when they came out to Blues Fest, and I think they've been put on the bill again for this year. I didn't get to go see them, unfortunately, but I have definitely checked their stuff out online. They look killer. Amazing guitar players, amazing vocalists, and I'm constantly watching their Instagram and checking out all the videos they put out, and they look like they just have this amazing back catalogue of influences, which is really admirable. Another one that comes to mind is an older artist, Coco Taylor, who did Willie Dixon's Wang Dang Doodle famously. Man, what a freaking voice, holy crap. So much power in that vocal, and I often find myself just listening to her stuff with huge admiration. There's obviously like Etta James as well. Who else am I big on at the moment? Angie McMahon's putting out some amazing stuff. Man, there's so many. Bonnie Raitt is one of my favorites. Like, I could go on for days and days and days. Was the question, who is my favorite? Good question. My favorite female artist. I think Coco Taylor is up there. I think she's like the female version of Howlin' Wolf. Like, and Howlin' Wolf is like my favorite of all time. She's like, if you had to compare, I reckon she is about the only person that I can think of that could sing like Howlin' Wolf. So I'm going to say Coco Taylor at this stage, but that could change. That could change at any point. That could change as soon as this question is finished. But at this stage, I will say Coco Taylor is my favorite female artist of all time. We're gonna pitch a wang wang doodle all night long. She sings it way better than that. Next bloody question.
All right, question 4 comes from Mick Tao.
Yeah.
Facebook.
Mick is like the biggest regular on this show. Like he's like that guy. There's just the dog dying over there. He's like the guy at the bar, like one of those dudes. It's like he's there at the same time every day, day after day. Mick is there to ask a question or buy a beer. Like, it's metaphor.
I still really hope that I'm saying his last name right.
I think you are. I think we've established that it is Tao.
Yeah. Whew. All right. Well, Mick asks, when flying to a gig or a festival, how much gear do you take?
Brilliant question, Mick. Clothes. It's the short answer. No. In all seriousness, four bags I take, and I am able to do that because the wonderful Virgin Australia have created, I think Qantas do it now as well, but they've created a musician's baggage allowance. So story goes, like, athletes have had like the ability to order extra bags at practically no cost for ages, and musicians always got the end of the stick, as you say. In recent years, I think it was maybe 5-6 years ago, Virgin brought in this musician's baggage allowance, which allows, so if there's any musicians out there watching, you can actually get yourself 64 kilos worth of baggage. You've just got to be a member to like APRA or like Music Victoria, or I'm sure there's like New South Wales and Queensland and Western Australia associations similar. You've just got to be a member of those, and you can get yourself up to 64 kilos across 4 bags, and your bag can weigh up to 32 kilos. So that's a massive advantage as opposed to what you'd usually get in a standard economy flight of 1 bag up to 23 kilos, and then after that you've got to start paying for, I think, probably $100 per bag or something like that. So I take advantage of that. So I've got a bag, a case which is full of all my drum stuff. This is what happens when you live near an airport, I guess. Where was I? A case of, speaking of flying.
That's a 4 o'clock plane.
So I've got a case, like what's called a Pelican case, full of all like my drum hardware. So I don't actually fly with drums per se. I fly with all the hardware, the mechanisms that make my little one-man band thing work. And then I've got my guitar pedals as well, a case. I've got like this old school leather suitcase that I just put all that in. And then I've got my guitar, obviously, and then I fly with a little Bunnings tool case full of merchandise, and that gets me, that's all that I need. And then when we land wherever I'm going, the wonderful Vox and Yamaha line me up with some drums and an amp, which is fantastic. And then in terms of international flying, we've got to kind of break that down a little bit, because most international flights will only allow you to fly with 3 bags. So I generally stash some merch in one of those other bags or in my carry-on, and that's how we get away with international. So it's all fun and games. It actually is. It's actually, I really enjoy flying as opposed to driving for hours these days. I used to love driving, but flying, time is precious. Time is so precious. Like literally, what just happened now will never happen again. I'll never get that back. So wherever I can save time, I'm trying to save time, or make more time, I should say. Even though you can't make more time, time is precious.
Last question.
Last question.
Last question comes from @SandyLeeArtist on Instagram.
Yeah.
And Sandy asks, when did it click that you knew this is what you wanted to do with your life? Was there an actual moment? Good question, Sandy.
Yeah, like I remember a specific moment. I don't know if that was like the moment where I just knew that this is what I was going to do for the rest of my life. It feels to me now like it was, but I'm also well aware that our minds can kind of make up from the past and kind of paint a different picture for us if we want it to, or if we let it. So the moment that I remember was I was playing at this tiny little bar that I used to play at. Well, sorry, no, I hadn't played yet. I was out with a bunch of friends at this little bar that would soon become like the home base of me playing music. Like that was like the place that I'd kind of really started my music career, very early days at. But so me and my mates, we were out and about. I think a few days earlier I'd kind of sang a song to some of my mates as we decided whether we were going to create a band or not, and it was decided that I was going to be a lead singer of that band. And we're out on the town out in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne, and I think I was underage. I was 17, because I remember we weren't supposed to be in that bar, and I'd had a few confidence boosters, and a few of my friends had convinced me that this was my time to shine, and it was an open mic night, I remember. And so with open mic nights, you know, anyone has the opportunity to get up on stage and play if they just put their name down on the chalkboard. And so I did so, or maybe even one of my mates did it for me, I don't know. And come my time to get up on stage, and we came to the realization that I didn't have a guitar. So how are we going to do this? So there was an old guy at the open mic night who'd been on stage, and he was kind enough to lend a very, very inebriated 17-year-old me his guitar, which to the day I am grateful for, because I can't imagine that would have been an easy thing for him to do, because I would have been visibly drunk and young and stupid. And he gave me his guitar, and I got up on stage and played a few songs. I think I played 2 or 3. I won't mention what those songs probably were. I was playing lots of top 40 covers back then. I remember it went quite well, as far as drunken me could tell, and got off stage, and I remember a few people coming up. It was probably only 2 or 3. It felt like thousands, coming up and telling me that they really enjoyed my set on stage. And I remember at that point kind of going, holy crap, could be onto something here. This could be something that I do for the rest of my life. I don't know whether it was that distinctive back then, but I just remember that moment being like a significant moment in establishing that this was something I was going to pursue for a long time. So that was the moment. Yeah, way back when I was 17 years old, drunk, underage, someone else's guitar, someone else's microphone that I spat all that beer breath all over. Very, very, what's the word for it? Like, the moment was just, can't think of the word, picturesque moments in time.
Just like the scenery
right
now.
Yeah, it was like something off a movie. Not really. It was, the bass probably stank. My vocals would have sounded awful. My guitar playing would have been awful. But to those 2 or 3 people that came and said, well done, like, thank you. Thank you so much for watching, you pack of bloody legends. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for all your questions. They're incredible. I absolutely love answering for them, and I hope you're getting plenty of value from them. I look forward to seeing more questions come in. I hope, drop them in the comments below right now. If you've got something you want to ask, don't even think about it. Just go. And we will get to them in a future episode. Thank you so much once again for watching. Chuck us a follow, a like, all that stuff on all my socials, and I'll see you very soon.